If you're interested in learning how to make a quick and easy satin covered sock bun, keep on watching. You'll need a few supplies to get started with your satin covered sock bun. You'll need a sock, some satin material that has a little stretch to it, needle and thread, and some shears. A ruler's optional. Let's get started. Okay, first I take my sock. You can use however thick or thin of a sock that you want to. Normally, with my older daughter, she doesn't really use sock buns, but she has a whole lot of hair, so I would use a much thicker sock. But since we are transitioning my youngest daughter and I've been trimming her hair as we go, her hair is a lot shorter, so I wanted to use a thinner sock. But you can use, because the thickness or thinness of your sock will depend on how thick or thin the donut is that you're going to inevitably make into your sock bun. So the first thing that you want to do is you just take your shears and you just cut the toe off of the sock. It does not have to be neat. Then you take your sock and you start to just roll it down back on itself. Just like that. I'm just rolling it down. And then once you get to a certain amount, just kind of pull the extra tension so it's not super loose. Just continue to roll this down, rolling and pulling so it's not so loose. Until you're left with a little piece at the end like that. What you're going to do with this piece is just fold it over the circle shape that you've made. Just like that. So you're left with a little donut. Looks just like that. It has a hole in the middle, and the excess top part of the sock, if I turn it this way, you can see it's right here. Okay, so that's your first. Okay, the next step is to take your satin material. This is what I have. It's I bought this from either Walmart or a beauty supply store. It's just one of those head wraps that you can use. It's kind of a matte finish on one side and then it's shiny satin on the other, and it has a little bit of a stretch to it. I like working with this type of material the best, and it's inexpensive. What I do is I take my material and let me turn it this way. You want the shiny side facing up because you're going to fold it over and you're going to make like a tube. And the way you know how wide you need this to be, take the little sock roll that we already made. Move this to the side. I should have gotten a different color than black on black. Take your little sock roll and you're going to measure it to the widest part on your sock roll. Let me go get a piece of material that's not this color so I can show you how to measure it. Okay, so I just went and made another sock roll in a contrasting color. So we're gonna, like I said, you have your satin material face up shiny side. Fold it over to where two shiny sides are touching, and so you should have the matte side, facing you. Take your little sock roll and you're going to put it on your material and you measure it across. You probably don't even need a ruler. I said you might need a ruler. If you want to be really precise, you measure it across and add maybe an extra 1/2 of an inch. So, and you measure from the widest part of your sock, because you need for your sock to be able to slip down in here, but you don't want it to be too loose. So maybe like a little bit over 1/4 of an inch, maybe, just a hair over 1/4 of an inch, because 1/2 of an inch I think is going to be too wide. So my widest part of this sock roll is measuring at almost 3 inches. So I'm going to go over here to 3 1/4 inches, and that's where I'm going to cut my material across to 3 1/4 inches. So just start at the bottom and just cut up to where you did your measurement. Remember, you don't want it to be too big, but if it's too small, once you do your stitching, it might be too tight to, you know, completely get your sock roll in. So I'm gonna cut my material straight up like this, and then you can save the rest for later for another project. I've made several of these, and so if you can see how it's sitting there, just have a little bit on each side. Okay, all right, so now you have a piece of material. This is the whole piece. It's just folded over, so you have one folded side right here, and then you have one side that's open. So what you need to do is you need to take your needle and your thread, and what you're going to do is you will do a running stitch down this open side. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thread my needle, and I'm going to do a running stitch down this open side. I'll come back like once I've started the stitch so that you can see, just for time's sake. Okay, I have my threaded needle. So all I'll do is take my material, and pretty close to the edge, you know, enough where the stitch isn't going to come loose. You just start doing a running stitch. And the stitches that I'm mentioning, if you're not sure what type of stitch I'm talking about, if you click the link in my description box for my blog, I will have a link on the blog to show you the different stitches that you'll use. You'll need to do a running stitch on this part, and then later on in the tutorial, a whip stitch. Both of these are very simple stitches. So just continue. Let's see if you can see what I'm doing here. Running stitch is just a basic sewing stitch. Just continue to work your needle in and out of your material until you get this whole side closed, completed. That's what I get for holding my thread up in the air. For about to get a knot here. So just continue sewing a running stitch down this edge until it's completely sewn together. Okay, now that you have this complete side closed, you're going to take your needle, rethread it, and do another running stitch from the end you started on down to the end you finished on. This reinforces this side, and when you start putting your the little donut in the stretchy satin material, this keeps it from ripping a stitch because you want it to be snug. And also when you wash it and you're using it, you don't want the stitch that you made to come loose. So this will just be a reinforcing stitch. Is this absolutely necessary? Of course not, but I like to do it because it makes them last a little bit longer. So I'm going to do one reinforcement stitch down here, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've done 2 stitches, running stitches down the side of my satin material, and okay, now that you've gotten your satin cloth sewn with a running stitch twice so that the side is reinforced, we're going to thread it through our donut that we made earlier out of a sock. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you first with the lighter colored sock, and then I'm going to actually complete this project with the darker sock. I like a darker base under the darker material. So I'm going to start with the end again that we started sewing on, and you just thread it or just feed it through the hole in the donut, and you take the top and stretch it around the shape of the donut. And this material has a little bit of stretch to it, so it goes on rather easily. Then I take, see how it looks, it's like that. Then I take my form and I start to roll it down in the same manner that I did when I first cut the toe off the sock and I was forming it into a donut shape. And you just continue to roll down your the donut shape with the satin material on it. Okay, I'm going to unroll it now and demonstrate that again, but I'm going to switch it out with the initial sock that I cut. because I want to use a darker color. So you just feed it through your sock. Take the end of the satin tube, I'll call it a satin tube that we just finished. Form it around the shape of your initial sock donut, and then start to just roll it down and pull. But be a little bit more gentle when you're pulling the satin, because you know it is satin. It's not like a cotton sock. So I'm rolling it and I'm pulling it, and I'm going to continue to roll this down and pull it until we have just a little piece hanging out the end, just like we did when we started with our sock. Rolling and pulling it because we want to be nice and smooth. And we're left with this much of our satin material hanging out. Okay, so now what we want to do is take this remaining satin material and shape it around the outside of our sock bun, like we did with the sock before. Okay, I'm glad it did this because that's too much material to be sticking out, so I'm going to have to push that in. There. You don't want a lot of material sticking out. You just want a little bit. So now I have one side that looks like this. Okay? And then the other side that just has these little pieces sticking out. So we can't leave this like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our threaded needle and we're going to do a stitch called a whip stitch, because we're going to sew this piece of material down to here. And I've already got my needle threaded. Again, if you're not sure what a whip stitch is, or some people call it an overcast stitch, click on the link below to my blog, and there will be a place to click that has a stitching chart. So I just start underneath here and I pull up, and then I come under again and I pull up. Let me see if I can get a better shot of that for you guys. Okay, just to show you again, I hope you can see this. There's a piece right here that's loose, and I just take my needle and my thread and I pull that there, and I come back around and go underneath, pull, and I continue to do that until it's completely done. And I'll be right back when I finish securing that. And that's it. It's finished on this side. That's how it looks. And then on the smooth side, it looks like that. Very simple. And you'll need to have one of these if you plan on using the technique for stretching hair that I'll have posted in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.